All right, everybody, this is In Liberty and Health episode. Oh, I normally check that. I can't believe I just dropped the ball right at the beginning. Episode 28. On the other line, I got Angela Pence. No relations, as far as I know, unless there's
No,
something else going on.
God,
Unless-
no.
yeah, unless there's something else going on there. How you doing?
I am doing well, and there is no relation because I did check, because I would have been mortified. But there actually, when my family came overseas, or well, part of my family, um, part of them colonized up in Indiana, Illinois area, and the other part colonized in Alabama. And so I'm part of the Alabama Pences, not the crew that Mike Pence is from.
Oh my God, yeah, you're probably much better off.
I am so better off.
the people might look at people from Alabama a little weird, like you get a little close to your cousins and family pictures, but
I
at least you're not shooting each other up in Indiana or Illinois,
No, no, or creepy. Flies
Yeah.
actually are not attracted to me at all.
Mhm.
So I kind of use that as a gauge too, because they always like seem to kind of go around Mike Pence. Of course,
Mhm.
there's the whole conspiracy theory as to why, but no, they're not attracted to me, so not the same blood.
Okay, all right. So now that we established that, um, what kind of brought you to the Liberty movement? Everyone has a story. It's either Ron Paul or kind of like loosely from the Gary Johnson campaign. What made you decide to become a libertarian? And then we'll also kind of tack on to why you're running.
Right. So I actually came on board during Gary Johnson's campaign. In my area, there was a little affiliate, and I couldn't bring myself to vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And so that's when I was like, well, okay, well, what do I do? Right. So where am I at? And so I found this little affiliate and just connected with them. And at that point, I mean, that was pretty much it. I loved the principles. I felt like it really resonated with me. So I campaigned for Gary Johnson, and I was campaigning also for an independent that was running here locally. And it was super funny because, of course, everybody was waving Trump signs here. I mean, the Democrats are virtually non-existent here, so everybody, at the polling places was, with their Trump signs and their faces, like they had masks. It was really weird. It was very oh God, what is that? Purge like. It was very creepy. But it was, nonetheless, I stood out there and I had my Gary Johnson sign, my one Gary Johnson sign. And back then, of course, I mean, I feel like the movement was just kind of getting started. So throughout from then to 2020, I just kind of stayed with my affiliate. I wasn't really, we weren't really connected to the state party. We were just kind of doing our own thing. And in that time frame, I had worked on a couple local GOP campaigns, and in the last one I worked, I was like, I can never do this again, because of how corrupt it was. And so while I became a libertarian back in 2015, it took several years for me to like really realize, oh my God, that like this is the stuff I saw was so corrupt that it was insane. And I must have been drinking at least like a handle of Jack Daniels a night just to deal with it. Like it was terrible.
From the
And
GOP campaign
yeah,
run? Oh wow.
yes.
Okay.
From dealing with local GOP candidates. So because we don't again have any Democrats here. Um, so yeah, I worked on multiple different campaigns, and just seeing how things played out and how people were and how the establishment really was really bad. And so I say that I went full bore libertarian in 2020. And that's when I, had made the decision that I would never support a GOP candidate again, and or a Democrat, but again, that's not really relevant. So I I I actually, funny story, we had our little libertarian affiliate page on Facebook, right? And before like the mass pulling down and everything, one of my pages was the first ones to get yanked down. And so I connected with the state party and I was like, my affiliate page is like on. They took it down and they're not giving me any like indication of what we did. I mean, this was a really mild group. There was no like anything
Yeah.
to constitute it being taken down. And I was ripped. I probably should have asked you beforehand if it's okay to cuss.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure I opened up the first couple sentences about every single show swearing my mouth off. So no, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I had somebody not long ago. I was on a podcast and I went back and heard myself bleeped out so many times. I was like, oh no. Probably should have thrown that one out there.
No,
But
my God, I'm
anyway,
way too lazy to bleep out swear words, and plus I swear too much, I wouldn't be able to censor myself.
I couldn't do it. Yeah, couldn't do
Oh
it.
God.
So I was like, yeah, like literally, what the fuck? So they ended up, yeah, just kind of connected me within the state party, and it really, I just got super involved from there. I ended up, we had to recreate our page. We never got it back, so we had to redo that. So we did, and then I started working on various projects with LP Georgia and then found myself working on Joe and Spike's campaign
Oh,
most
wow.
of last year. Yeah, so that was pretty much it, and I've just kind of been going since.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. Um, I forgot to mention this at the very beginning of the show, but you were the first female guest I've had on in almost 30 episodes. So
Oh
congratulations.
wow!
I had to mention that. I
Yay!
couldn't let that go.
Yay!
We kind of connected through Shane Hazel because I had him on my show, and I can't remember if you like to tweet of his or something along those lines, but I saw either he
Probably.
mentioned you or something along those lines.
Yep.
Are you guys like around the same area, or did you work on his campaign when he was GOP, or both?
So no, I actually didn't meet Shane until last year.
Okay.
And I Shane he is a one-man wrecking crew, right? I mean, he has it like all locked down. So
Mm.
he just like, I don't even now, I work as candidate support for LP Georgia, and
Okay.
I don't even bother him because I know he's got it under control.
Yeah.
But I found him last year, and through all of the events, because I helped organize and do most of the Southeast tours that Joe and Spike did. And so that's how we were looking for speakers, and that's how I met him. And through listening to him and just like really getting to know him, that's how, I mean, I consider him a friend of mine now. I mean, we are not close to each other. He actually lives about an hour south of me, but
Okay.
we anytime there's an event or anything like that, he's one of the first people I call. So I'm
Mhm.
like, we just got to get you everywhere. We have to get you out in front of as many people as we can. And I think we're very similar on a lot of things, and I think that definitely helps. We in a multitude of different things, right? So just our families are quite similar, and so there's a lot of like just common ground there. So we just get along as friends.
Sure. So, where would you kind of put yourself on this libertarian spectrum? Because I consider myself an anarcho-capitalist, and I understand that that's kind of utopian.
Mhm.
So, yeah, people get lost in this minutia, but kind of where would you fall? Because there's some people who consider themselves a little bit more along the left-leaning end of the spectrum, where they're perhaps more concerned about social issues versus right-wing people. You know, give or take, kind of
Right.
more about economic issues. So where would you consider yourself along that spectrum?
I am right down the middle. I definitely, and I'm very proud of that.
Sure.
I'm glad that I I can see things from so many different perspectives,
Sure.
and it's because I've been around so many different people,
Mhm.
and so I never think that I just have the answers because I don't. I mean, as soon as I think that I'm like solid on one thing or one belief, somebody will chime in and give valid points, right?
Mhm.
And I things I never thought about. But I feel like if I had I feel like I lean a little more conservative.
Sure.
than I do more on the left side, just simply because of my upbringing and how I grew up. I mean, I grew up in one of the reddest districts in the United States. So there was that served me in my beliefs, but also there was a lot of I think deconditioning that had to happen there too, right? Because of just where I'm at. So it's interesting. I very much so am about social justice, criminal justice reform, but it was hard for me last year. Especially, there was a lot of navigating that I had to figure out because, like when the whole ACAB, all cops are bad, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, three of my friends down the road that work for the city police department, like they're not bad people, and I know them because I grew up with them. They're the people that will literally give you the shirt off their back. They're not these people out here beating down doors or shooting people unjustly or anything like that. So like navigating stuff like criminal justice reform has been quite interesting for me because yes, there are very obviously some very bad cops, right? But at the same time there's some that are not. So I've kind of crafted my view of that is that there has to be better training, and that is something that I am very passionate about, because I do know police officers that are great people, but at the same time, we have to be able to hold the ones that aren't accountable. And the same goes with military. I mean, there was the distrust and distaste for the military at one point last year, and that was hard to swallow because we're a military family. So it was like, oh God, I understand from like protesters' point of view, right? All of a sudden here's National Guard and they're doing their job, but is that, I mean, is that really them, or is that what they're being told to do? And I know that for a fact because again, we're a military family, and we had to have that discussion. I mean, I had to have that discussion with my partner, like, okay, well, I mean, he's almost 16 years in, and it's like, well, what is your job? I mean, is your job to go down here and yeah, push these protesters back, tear gas them, beat them, everything else? I said, is that really your job, or is your job to protect us from a tyrannical government? I said, because right now I think it's really up for question, like where we're at.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting navigating, but on most issues I'm pretty right down the middle. I think that I'm very much so I just want people to be able to live their lives and, not have other people tell them how they should do that. I don't care if somebody is gay. I don't care if somebody is trans. I mean, that doesn't impact me. Right. I mean, that doesn't, as long as they're not harming me or harming other people, that doesn't impact me. So, like I said, I'm kind of right down the middle. I had somebody ask me if where I was the other day, and I feel like I teeter between an anarchist and a monarchist, because in my mind I would love to see the government burn. Like, there are many times I'm like, just if you could just burn it to the just burn it, to the ground. But at the same time I'm also very realistic about like what we're working with. It's I mean that is not realistic right now. What is realistic is getting into office and chipping away at it, as much as you can, and getting more and more people to chip away at it to get that federal government down to a smaller size. And then to a point in which I am a huge believer that that humans are good people. Like, humans are naturally good. I mean, obviously there's some that are just not, but the majority are good. And I truly feel like why do we need somebody over us, to make us do the right things? I'm a firm believer that society really does wash out the shit bags. So I mean, it may not happen immediately,
Mhm.
but it eventually does. I mean, it's just kind of, I mean, if you look back through history, I mean, that's what happens. So people are just afraid of that. People are so conditioned to think that they have to be told what to do and how to do it. And if they don't have all of these laws to protect them, right, that somebody is going to come in and harm them or harm their business or whatever. So it's an interesting place to be, really. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I think most people do inherently have kind of a sense of property and property rights
Mhm.
because you don't want things stolen from you,
Right.
and you kind of understand that when you start doing that unto other people, that may be reciprocated onto you. So I'm not necessarily
All
a
right.
believer in karma, but eventually things do kind of work out, and I think libertarians understand that the best because we understand free market economics.
Right.
Most libertarians come from the Austrian school of economics, so we kind of understand the way that a free market has to work. And if you are engaging in bad business practices, then eventually that's going to come back around to bite you in the
Oh yeah.
ass.
Yep.
So um, that was always one attractive part about libertarianism to me. On a lot of social issues, it seems like a lot more libertarians are kind of leaning towards the social conservative side, which I would definitely consider myself more of that kind of breed of libertarian, where I don't necessarily have a problem with people that want to engage in sex work or, pornography or anything like that.
Right.
But I understand the stigma more and more. And I don't want to say it's necessarily a healthy thing, but I know I plan to have kids, and if my son or daughter had told me that they wanted to go engage in the adult film industry, I wouldn't tell them, I wouldn't put a gun to their head and tell them no, but I'd be like, come on, man.
Can we
So,
please not?
yeah, like
Maybe
of
not.
all the things that we can
I
do,
mean,
I believe you could do something better. So, and like I
right.
said, it's not that I think that should be illegal, but I think I don't want to say the stigma's healthy, but I think it's
Hmm.
there for a reason, and I do think that nuclear families are incredibly important.
Right.
And it was funny. I was out to eat with a friend of mine who considers himself a pretty much a socialist, and I enjoy talking to people like that because
Right.
it kind of makes you think on your toes because this person has a
Hmm.
completely opposite world view of you. So it's really interesting to kind of
Yep.
battle ideas out and bounce things off each other. And like I said, it makes you question your own beliefs and have to defend where you're standing. So
Right.
yeah, I like I said, it seems like more and more people kind of gravitate towards social conservatism, and I think that also resonates with people who aren't libertarians. So, since you kind of came from a red district, I'm guessing a lot of people are there probably Trump guys, neocons, people. They hate us for our freedom, back the blue. Is that kind of your experience around where you live?
Yes and no.
Okay.
There's definitely, this is how I describe it, right? Is when we had people like Marjorie Greene come on the scenes and Donald Trump, for example, the GOP split. And so you have this, and you can see it here definitely. You have this smaller group that really is like that, but the majority are not. And that's what makes me so sad about how my district is portrayed by somebody like Marjorie Greene, because that is not how we are. The mass majority of us are not racist. The mass majority of us are not authoritarian, which is very much so what she is. The most everybody here is pretty moderate. The problem is that one side is louder, and that has been what has kind of been shown. But I mean, yeah, there were several people on, the Trump train. That was the big thing. And then I think as the election played out last year, I think that was the breaking point for a lot of them. Because I mean, I'm not going to say there was not any voter fraud. And I'm
Mhm.
not going to say that because I know that we had an issue with our own poll watchers getting in down in Fulton County. So I'm not going to say that there was no wrongdoing, period. But that man has wasted how much money, like trying to cram down everybody's throat that he really did win. No, but you didn't. Whether it was rigged, whether it wasn't,
Yeah.
but whatever, you didn't. And I think people saw how that played out. They saw how January 6th played out, and they're like, oh God. Oh, and they recognize that that is not what they want to be associating with. And so they've kind of veered off. Actually, I have seen more of the folks that have identified with the GOP in the past come to me and are interested in the libertarian movement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because they like it's a very interesting place to be, really, because if you think about it, somebody like Marjorie Greene, right? She's bucking the system. She's, at face value, she is fighting for our individual freedoms and this and that.
And she sounds
Yeah.
good on some issues because she has that
Yes.
populist energy about her.
Absolutely. But when you start getting into the nitty gritty of it, really all it is, yeah, I mean, those are great things. Like, I'm not even going to argue. I don't think we should have vaccine mandates. I really don't,
Yeah.
but at the same time, when you look at her stance on it, she wants the government to like force businesses to not be able to do that, which I don't think that's right either, so people are starting to see things like that, and they do love the idea of liberty. They do, and they're all fed up with the government and the way the government's working, and they're seeing that, okay, well, here's this group that loves those same things, and they really are more moderate, but they're not batshit crazy, or they're not trying to instill an authoritarian government. It's like trading one shit for another shit. She, like, Marjorie goes on and on about socialism and how we should be afraid of socialism when she is literally almost the same exact thing, just on the other side.
Right. And that's kind of the way it seems with the GOP. And Trump, the first 2 years, I really liked him because of, I was bought on the train, because so I'm an auto mechanic. So obviously all the guys I work with are boomer conservatives, right? I mean, these guys would like take a bullet for Trump in a freaking heartbeat. I'm in rural Pennsylvania, right? I mean, you still drive everywhere. There are Trump signs bigger than my fucking house.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere.
Yep.
People love Trump. But before I go on a little tirade here, it's very interesting that it's for you, your experience was that people are starting to kind of leave the GOP for the Libertarian Party. That's very surprising for you because in rural areas, I do not think that's the way it's going to play out. But I'm glad that you've had a different experience. But my experience has been that these people just will not give an inch. I mean, they will justify the gun control that he did. They'll justify the spending. If these guys, if Trump said, let's go to war with China, these guys would tie their boots and stand on the side of the highway waiting for a fucking bus. And
that would never come.
No, right. But that's the bad part is that, look, when you use populism, and I'm not against it, but when you use it in that manner and you have somebody that just is a hammer in search of a nail and China happened to be the nail and, we were the guys kind of, pounding away at them, because what does China do? China produces stuff. They have slave labor, which is wrong, but we're the assholes that print up the debt and send them money and they send us stuff. So China looked like a nail to Trump, so he drove that nail down. And now you have this huge, people are China hawks, they're Iran hawks because they think we should go to war with Iran too. Yeah. And someone in the GOP, Rand Paul, to his credit, they kind of pulled away the GOP from their bloodthirsty warmongering.
Right.
It's not good, but that's kind of why I don't see the GOP as much of a good vehicle for liberty, because it just doesn't seem like they have an appetite for it. But basically my whole point here is that I'm glad that your experience is different, and I hope that's kind of a sign of the tide changing. Marjorie is batshit nuts, but she has some good talking points. But I haven't spent enough time looking at her voting record, but I'm sure if Donald Trump was in and Donald Trump said, well, I need to push vaccine mandates because it's the greatest vaccine ever, you'll all love it, I promise, then she would vote for it, as a lot of GOP guys would. It's just because Joe Biden's in there that now they want to play tough. And this is kind of a optimistic thing for right-wingers, is that And I think this is what a lot of the GOP libertarian guys kind of want to use. They want to use Republicans as essentially useful idiots to push
Right.
libertarian ends, which, if you're successful at that, cool. I'm not against
Right.
that because
Right.
we both win. Libertarians win, GOP guys win because the GOP libertarians and libertarians both want the same ends. We just see
Right.
different means.
Yep.
So, does it seem like that is changing? Because you said there are people coming up to you, so people seem more interested in the Libertarian Party than they do with kind of the mainstream GOP, which kind of is the populist right.
Right. Right. So yeah, so I'll preface this by saying I live in a pretty rural area. Most of my district actually is quite rural, other than they through gerrymandering. We're trying to break up the very Democratic Cobb County. So they took out 2 counties from my district that are super rural, like Harleston and Paulding, and they replaced it with part of Cobb.
I
Um,
see how that could be.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
which is
Sorry. Now
so
I'm only
weird.
flipping. Yeah.
Yeah, which is so weird. And actually, I was pretty upset about it. Which is funny because like everybody's like, Angela, that is great for you because you can speak to issues that Democrats are about, and a Democrat most certainly isn't ever going to win here. And I was like, yeah, but the problem is I am from rural Georgia, right? I live in a small town. We have farms everywhere.
Yeah.
Like how am I, from rural ass Georgia, going to represent these folks from literally like right outside of Atlanta? I said the needs for both are so incredibly different,
Yeah.
you know. But I think that a lot of kind of what we're seeing here, Georgia is a swing state. So that's part of it. We're in this really interesting atmosphere right now where the Libertarian Party in general is really gaining some crazy traction. Like this upcoming year in 2022, we have 16 candidates confirmed that will be running, and we plan on having at least 20. And people like are receptive to that. A lot of these folks, I've been around to the affiliates, and they're doing hand in hand stuff with like the GOP, because most places, again, unless you're inside of like Atlanta or Savannah or Columbus, everything else is red. So we're having to partner with the GOP on certain things. The same thing here where I live. So you figure these people, these affiliates and the libertarians are getting out here and they're getting active in their communities, and they're meeting and working with all of these people. And I think that's where the key is, because they're making these connections with their community, and then they're turning around and running for office. And so not only is the message spreading, and people are like, hey, yeah, you know what, I like that. I am, because I truly do believe that most people fall moderate with everything. They may identify one way or the other, but I truly believe that most people fall in that moderate category, especially on the GOP side. Most of the time you don't, it's not people that, there's obviously hot topic issues, abortion, things like that, but otherwise they really don't care who people marry. They really don't care if people are smoking pot. I mean, so they fall in that. And I think that's a lot of kind of what we're seeing. People, not to mention the GOP here keeps running literally the shittiest candidates they could possibly find, which blows my mind. Like it, and I've seen it from the back end too, and it's like, what are you thinking? Like if you want to survive. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I said, if the GOP wants to survive, they better fucking step up. I said, and put up these moderate candidates, because if you're going to back these far alt-right folks, you're not going to make it. Like the GOP is not going to make it. And if somebody would have asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said, nope, I 100% think that we're going to see the Democratic Party fall before we see the GOP. And because they're a shit show in their own right. But the more I've seen the GOP and how they have been responding and reacting, I think what we're going to end up seeing is this, and it's already poised to do so. If you see the stuff that like Marjorie Greene and Donald Trump Matt Getz, people like that. They're pushing this America First, right?
Hmm.
So the America First is actually a political platform. Donald Trump filed a third party in the state of Georgia called America First. And so what it is this whole other platform that really is pretty much white supremacy, just like with a bow on top of it. And you'll see them talking about it consistently. She has been actually, because I went through her SEC filings because I'm nosy and I wanted to see where all the money was going, because she's one of the most well-funded politicians. And she's traveling all over the United States on her campaign money, traveling all over the United States. Well, what they're doing is they're going around and they're preaching this America First. So what's going to end up happening is people are either going to get on board with this far right or they're going to be pushed completely out. Well, what's going to happen when those folks are pushed completely out? Where do they have to go? And the only place they really do have to go is the Libertarian Party. So I think we're seeing it a lot in Georgia because our state affiliate is very active. Our little affiliates within the state affiliate is very, very active. So we're making those connections and we're already in a swing state. There's a lot of interesting factors that are really playing into what we're seeing happen in Georgia right now, whereas not everybody else, has kind of caught up to that yet. But I think we're going to see it more and more as we continue to like dive into this, shit show. I think we're going to see it more and more. And I absolutely will not be surprised if Georgia is one of the first states that eventually does go gold. It may seem way out there, super far-fetched, but we have so many hardworking activists in the state that that are just building these incredible bridges, and we've got amazing candidates that are coming out of Georgia that are getting national attention. I mean, Shane is on Fox all the time now. So I mean, we've got candidates that are running good races, they're getting national attention, and I think we're gonna see a couple wins, and when we do, I think we're gonna see other states just kind of following suit.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people kind of say, especially from the GOP libertarian side, that they don't think the Libertarian Party is relevant enough. But I really don't think that's the case anymore because,
No.
okay, so in my state, Pennsylvania alone, there's over 125 elected libertarians. And granted, they're not like,
Mhm.
there's a few mayors, like constables, auditors,
Right.
inspector of elections. So they're not all huge seats, but there's something to be said
That's
about
big.
that. Right, right.
Yeah.
And like I said, they may not have a huge seat, but like there's the tide is changing. It's not
Yes.
like it's just going to be everyone's libertarian tomorrow. It's
Right.
a slow grind. So I don't think it's the
Mhm.
same deal as 1988 Ron Paul or 2016 Gary Johnson or even 2020 Joe Jorgensen.
Right.
Um, I do think a lot more people are starting to look locally because after this last 2 years, um,
Mhm.
people realize like this is not what we want, and even Republicans were bad on it. They signed on to all the stimulus, and it just
Yeah.
laugh when you hear people say Biden inflation or Biden
Oh, I
inflation,
know. I'm
and
like, you haven't seen Biden inflation yet,
yeah,
bud.
right, right. Well, it's like, okay, well, you're not wrong entirely because look, the dude's been in government for 50 years and he was vice president to Obama for 8 years as Obama doubled the debt and got us into all sorts of different wars. So you're not wrong.
Right.
But your guy spent just as much as Obama did in 4 years
Yep.
and then handed everybody free money. And
Yes.
speaking of Marjorie Taylor Greene, you'll get a kick out of this. Did you read what she was trying to impeach Biden over?
No, I didn't because I saw she was doing it and I was just like, are you
Okay,
serious?
so she was impeaching, and some of the stuff I agree with her on some stuff, right?
Right.
So she wanted to impeach him over the Afghanistan withdrawal, which
Right.
okay, yeah, could have been done better, but we
Much
need
better.
yeah
Yeah.
we had to get out of there. I mean, there was
We had
no
to leave.
yeah. I mean, we were there for 20 years. There's no more reason for us to be hanging out. If we want to go play in the sand, we can go down to Florida, wherever.
Right.
One of the things that she wanted to impeach Joe Biden for is the eviction moratorium. Think about that. I brought that up so many times. When I read that, I'm like,
Oh my God.
like
What?
everybody made a big deal about Donald Trump getting impeached, which okay, They wouldn't
Right.
impeach him on false charges. I agree. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you
Right.
can't. But like, if you're gonna say I'm gonna impeach our current president for something that our guy signed into law, like
Yeah.
you don't
That's
see how that
insane.
turns around on you. That like that
Well,
there's no reflective, no like,
none.
oh well, maybe this could get turned around on us.
Nope. She doesn't. And that's the thing. Like, if you see a lot of her stuff is actually like that. Like, I feel like whoever is running that woman's social media, which I think part of it has to be her because she's just too controlling. I don't see her giving too much reign, but of course she has to have a team, right? So I sit there and I think, I'm like, who told you this was a good idea? Like, who told you this was a good idea? What made you think and it's been several things. I mean, I can literally go, I say she's the gift that keeps on giving, because literally every other day there's something else that's just
Yeah.
so asinine that it's like, what? Like, what? So I am not shocked when she does stuff like this anymore, but the problem is so many people are not on Twitter, right? Or they're not, like, we broke down actually my demographic a couple weeks ago, and most of my voting demographic is 60 and up. Like, that is the largest chunk of voters. The rest, like, the next largest is the 50 to 60, and then the rest are falling behind. And those people, they're not on Twitter, right? So they don't see the bullshit
Yeah,
she's doing.
I don't think God's waiting room is hanging out on Twitter.
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
I'm sorry,
No.
that might have been a little off color, but yeah.
No. My grandmother didn't even have the internet, man. So, like, so they don't see any of this, right? And they only get what they hear on TV is pretty much what it is, or the radio. Um and of course that's, depending on where you're listening to it from, can go one way or the other. So a lot of these folks are listening to like Fox News or something along those lines, and so they're not seeing stuff like that. If they could really see like some of the shit she comes up with, I'm sure several of them would be like, so and that's what sucks, is not, not everybody sees that stuff. It's just like our FEC filings, right? No, I mean, that bitch spent $1,000 on a lunch in Washington. Who the fuck you feeding $1,000 lunches to?
Goddamn.
Like, that's what I said. I was like, the fuck, And so, like, I'm looking through her donor list, and I'm like, for every like 50 folks from all over the United States, there's maybe one donor from Georgia, maybe. And of course the rest of this money is coming. This is what cracks me up. She talks about how she's for the people, blah 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 blah. She's got all this super PAC money, and so the general population again doesn't understand. Most people don't understand how super PACs work, or how these these, not little, but these organizations that are funneling money into things, when they do that, they dictate your messaging. So they say, okay, we're going to give you this, but this is what's important to me. Right. So, so they don't understand that the shit she's coming out with, as far as like messaging and stuff, that's not being funded by us. That's not half the shit she says. People here, it's completely irrelevant to them. They could give a shit less, but her big money to pay for her $1,000 lunches, is funneling that in. So it is interesting, but like I said, I do see people kind of waking up to it, and I do think that we're going to see. I do think in my lifetime we're going to see the Libertarian Party become one of the major parties.
I completely agree, and I definitely think it seems like it's going that way, just because the victories state by state by state, and they may be little. I think it's opening up more and more, and specifically like you said down in Georgia, to have someone like Shane who was able to stand up and say, "Ain't doing it, ain't bowing out, I ain't gonna
Right.
endorse anybody." I mean that, and I told him this on
That
my
was
show.
great.
Yeah,
That was great.
and one of the most respected people in like all of politics, Rand freaking Paul. I mean, that show he did with him was pretty embarrassing for Rand. And I'm a huge Rand Paul fan just because
Right.
he's Ron Paul's son and he's good on almost everything. But
Right.
then you literally go on Shane's show telling him, hey, you should endorse this guy who has like a 20% constitutional, vote for this dude with a 20% constitutional voting record. It's like, look,
Right.
if you want to turn libertarians over to the GOP, give us something here. Throw us a bone.
Oh God, yeah, anything.
But you're just going to tell us, well, we're the lesser of two evils, so
right.
We should probably get your vote. Like,
just to get it, to get it. They're entitled to it, they think.
Yeah, and that's this makes me so fucking angry. But people will say, oh, if libertarians just stayed home, then Trump would have won the election. Or, oh, well, libertarians should go out and vote because those votes, you're voting for the Democrat Party or you're voting for the Republican Party. Like, first of all, fuck you. Do you ever think maybe if your candidates didn't fucking suck, we would vote for them? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think Donald Trump? Did you ever think maybe if you would have came through on a single fucking thing, if you would have not pushed gun control, if you would have pulled out at least one war and not made all of them worse, actually, then maybe we would have voted for you. These people are like inept of thinking that, oh, it couldn't have been anything they did wrong. It could just be because, or it has to be libertarians or stupid.
Just being assholes. Yeah. Just being assholes.
They should just stay home. Just stay home. Don't vote. No. You know what? No. That needs to be the thing about us is that, look, if we're not going to win, and I really hope we do, and I think we will, then we need to be the people saying, look, if you want my endorsement, you better fucking line up and you better speak that liberty stuff and you better get the base riled up and make them accepting of this message. Because if you're not going to do that, I will make sure you lose every single fucking election in your life.
Forever.
That's what needs to happen, though, because that's what these people want.
It's true.
They want to get elected, so it's either get the fuck out of the way and let the libertarians do the running. And look, if the libertarians are going to be going on this issue, I hope you get primaried. I hope you get thrown the fuck out of office if you're not going to live up to what we elected you to do. And Republicans, if you don't want to lose every single fucking election because of libertarians, start being good on anything because you're terrible on everything. Awful. I don't have to say anything about Democrats because we know they're terrible at everything.
We just know.
It goes without saying. So once again, if these people want libertarians to vote for them, be good. Libertarians, if you want to get in, be good. The messaging needs to be there. You have to educate people. You have to be accountable in your office. That's what's important to people. And
it is.
That's what the GOP seems to me has forgotten, but there's still enough useful idiots that will just say, oh, well, he's the lesser of two evils. Well, no, you know
we'll vote for them.
We have to reject that.
We do. We absolutely do. And it's funny because I went, well, of course, we will never live down Shane here, right? We will never live down.
Oh God, no!
He caused.
It's for the better,
Purdue. Yes. Yeah. God bless. And then when he decided he was going to run Purdue and was going to primary Kemp for governor, I was like, what an ass clap! Like you lost because you fucking suck and you're lazy. Like you couldn't even lift a finger to get out and even do any fucking work, right? So anyway, I went up to Washington in October to a economic conference for Freedom Works. And it was so funny because we were in there and me and my friend Andrea, we were the only libertarians there. Yeah, the rest were Republican, which is fine. But one of the guys, he was talking about Republicans running and this and that. And he came over. And I think Andrea had asked a question and that's what brought him over. And he goes, well, what state are you from? And she goes, Georgia. And he goes, oh, that's the state that lost us the election. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Shane would have just, and I go, nope, you cannot blame it on Shane. If y'all had a better fucking candidate, then that would have not been the case, period. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so no, you can't. If you want to try to blame, and that is one of the main problems with the Republican Party. They cannot accept that they are the problem. Mm-hmm. They just can't do it. We've seen it with like Donald Trump. Cannot accept that they are the issue. And I'm, you know, whether they're going to go down on that ship or not, I don't know, but until they can understand that they're not running good candidates, they're not doing what their own fucking party is supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're not living up to anything. They are not entitled to our votes. They're not entitled to their own fucking party's votes. And I think, and Shane's election last year showed how people are so pissed off with the establishment, because he didn't even campaign. He did his podcast. He was self-funded, right? I think I've seen him out and about more this year than I ever did during the Senate campaign. And that motherfucker still ended up with it was some obscene number up here in my
100, I think it was 100,
woods.
115,000 votes
Yes.
total.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so people, so up in so I started breaking down from the counties up here.
Mhm.
I mean, he did better than Joe up here, and people had never even seen him, in person or anything like that. Yeah. So that alone, and I thought to myself, good Lord, that right there tells you how fed up people are, and they're seeing the bullshit, and they're starting to see it. And the Republicans are doubling down on this. Well, you should just vote for us. You should vote for us, because they're scared, because they know that it's coming. But you know what? You're either going to fix it or you're not. That it's not our fucking job to save you from fucking up. That's not our job.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully for them, they figure it out. But I don't know. I don't hold my breath for that one. I don't think they will. So I think we'll see. I will see the collapse of their party within the next. It may not even take 8 years, honestly. I mean, I think we're going to see it continue, because Purdue was backed by Trump because he hates Kemp, which is, I think, fucking hilarious, because Kemp was so all about Trump for the longest time, right? And then to see, so our mandates last year, Trump, was
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to get on to this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I want to talk about this too. Yeah, no, go ahead.
So Trump, of course, was wishy-washy, right? He couldn't decide whether he wanted it or he didn't want to do
We
it.
locked down. It was the greatest lockdown ever. I locked down better than anybody.
Right?
It's something like that. But he criticized Kemp for not locking down, if I remember correctly.
He criticized him for opening up too soon. So what's funny
Okay,
about
yeah.
that, though, is Kemp. So we had 2 weeks where, we were shut down. And it wasn't even if you don't shut down, you're getting fined or anything. It was just I really think y'all should shut down. So we had 2 weeks. That 2 weeks passed, right? And Kemp's like, you know what, I'm gonna open up. And Trump is like, you know what, that's good. That's, yes, you do that. And so Trump is fanning that fire, right? Kemp goes on. He's like, yeah, you know what? We're opening back up everything. 2 days later, 2 days. Trump is like, no. I don't know why he's doing that down there. He's opening up too soon. And I was like, how does that bus feel, Kemp? Because he just fucking nailed you, buddy.
My
But Kemp
God.
went on. He was like, nah, fuck you, bud. And open back up our state, and we have not had a lockdown or anything like that since, which is one thing I can say that he, I think, did right. And he, even through the whole election thing, Kemp, he stayed as far away from it really as he could, which was probably the smart thing to do. Because of course we were part of that whole controversy where fucking Trump was calling Brad Raffensperger and being like, you need to find me 1,200 votes or whatever.
Find me the votes.
And Brad was like, I can't do that. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for, but no.
Well, I had you know who Reed Coverdale is, right?
Yes.
When he was on my show,
Mm-hmm.
I can't recall. It might have been after we were off air, but he said it wasn't so much that Biden won, it was that Trump lost. Because in
Right.
2020, he fell apart like
He did.
completely. And this was the most upsetting part about his Trump as a whole, is that as a candidate in
Hmm.
2015, 2016, he sounded like a Ron Paul almost. He said the government's a
Yeah.
bubble held up by low interest rates, and the stock market's a bubble. The
Hmm.
Obama stock market's a bubble. The unemployment rate is a farce because you got to look at the labor force participation rate. Like everything he was saying was right.
Was good.
He was
Right.
spot on. But then he gets in and then he says, "Well, look at the stock market; it's so great." Yeah, just complete and total
Got
one eight,
derailed.
complete and total 180. And then in 2020, like that first debate, his thing is to go for the jugular. But
Yeah.
when you don't let your opponent kind of pants themselves, and that's all you had to do. All you have to
Yeah.
do is let Joe Biden speak for 2 seconds, and people will be like, "Whoa."
Nah.
but but
Nope.
but he couldn't. Oh, look, his son in Ukraine. He just fucking had to keep
Yeah.
going, and people saw that. And he's complaining about his economy being a mess, and then he shut things down, and then he said, "Oh no, we have to open up." And then you're supposed to be this fiscal conservative, but then you're sending everybody stimulus checks.
Yeah.
um it was like, you don't look like a fucking Republican at this point.
No.
I can't tell the difference between you
Absolutely
and
not.
I can't tell the difference between you or Bernie Sanders at this point. So
No.
you
Absolutely.
know, and people think this Biden economy is so bad. Well, the only reason why it's so bad is because Trump fucked everything up. And
Right.
then, before him, Obama fucked everything up. It's been a long line of people kicking the can down the
Fucking up.
road. Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one wanted to take responsibility for it. And that's part of the
Right.
reason why Trump, negotiated the withdrawal from Afghanistan to be, if he wasn't elected, because he didn't want that to fall apart on his watch. But
Right.
I've said this a few times now, but the more and more you learn about Trump, and the more and more like what he knows, and you see how his presidency played out and how things are going now, it's almost like he literally came in as a fucking wrecking ball that was paid to
Yeah.
be that wrecking ball, and then
Yep.
fucking leave. Because what's he
I
doing
know.
now? He's sipping a cocktail or eating McDonald's down in Mar-a-Lago, and the
Yeah.
economy's fucking destroyed after he did so much to wreck it.
So much shit. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
now
That's
it
what
all
I
falls
said.
apart on the Democrats' watch.
Oh, absolutely. That's what
But
I always said,
mm,
was that I thought that it was just too fucked up. It was just
mm,
too fucked up that, and he is not stupid by any stretch,
no.
but he most certainly, I could see somebody offering him money and telling him, well, this, that, whatever, and him saying, all right, I'll do it. And,
Just tell me
here we
what I
are.
need to tell the people.
Just,
I'll do it.
I'll do
You need me to lock down? All right, I'll destroy the economy, but I'll still
it.
tell them it's the greatest thing in the world.
It's the
Don't
greatest
worry.
thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
no one
Yes.
wore masks like me. And it's funny because you still hear interviews with him, and he's still saying, "Oh, the vaccine's the greatest thing in the world. I saved 100 million lives." Well, now, where are you if you're supposed to be this warrior for freedom? Where are you
Right.
when people are losing their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Where are you when business owners are essentially having a gun pointed to their head and told, "Look,
Yes.
if you don't want to enforce this, we're going to fine you, or we're going to throw you in a fucking cage."
Yep.
Where are you, the leader, the former leader of the free world? All you can do is talk about the vaccines and how great your rollout was. Like, this is the issue of our time now at this point,
Yes.
that people
Hmm.
are now being required to undergo a medical procedure. And I'm not here to debate efficacy of the vaccine. I think it's
Right.
mildly efficacious. I don't know.
Right.
COVID has some long-term implications, but so does the vaccine. This is a
Right.
very nuanced conversation. But
Absolutely.
we have to kind of throw this nuance out if we're going to be telling people that they have to get this and they don't have
Have
a
to have
choice.
it. Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yep. That is absolutely the problem. I I have I will back this up and say, years ago, my own children had adverse reactions to regular vaccines. And so we stopped vaccinating. And through that, there was a ton of research done, finding doctors that, would actually work with us and things like that. Um, and so I've been pinned as an anti-vaxxer for years, and ridiculed as such through the doctors and things like that. I was called stupid, right in front of my kids one day. I had to literally hold Dan back because he was like, "What the fuck?" Because I didn't want my kids to have the MMR vaccine. So it's funny. Yeah, I was tagged with that for years, and these are studied vaccines, right? But they're so as I'm studying and as I'm learning and everything, I found myself in groups, and we're not talking small groups, right? We're talking hundreds of thousands of people with stories of adverse reactions. Things. I have a friend whose kid died, 24 hours after a DTaP vaccine. So the long-standing history here with vaccines period is that vaccine manufacturers cannot be held accountable. That was put into law in the 80s, that they cannot be held accountable period for
That was
any
under Nixon,
kind.
right?
um
Was it Nixon or Reagan? I
I
think
think
it
it was
was.
Reagan. I think it
Okay.
was Reagan. um so they all of a sudden the pharmaceutical companies have no liability, right? Well, after that we saw this huge surge in vaccines that kids had to get. When our parents were kids, it was like 2 or 3. Now we're talking 14, 15, 16 vaccines that a child has to get, right?
Mm.
So I'm studying, learning everything, stories upon stories upon stories upon stories, of vaccine reactions that have always been swept under the rug, of course. And so, but even me, I'm a healthy skeptic, right? So last year I had somebody tell me, she goes, we have to push back against the mask mandates because the next thing will be a mandatory vaccine. And I thought, no, they will never do that. That is crossing the line. Too many people will push back. That is too much, right? And then here we are.
Right.
And so here is a vaccine, right? And you can chronologically watch all of this, right? That's what blows my fucking mind, is you can watch how this all rolls out, right? And how at first it's the vaccine is 100% safe. I promise you, I swear on my fucking life, in 20 years when all these people have cancer, then we're gonna see those fucking like mesothelioma fucking commercials. You were injured by the COVID-19 vaccine. There's no fucking way they know how safe it is. There's no way. There's none. Yes, you can say that they've been studying the SARS virus and trying to prepare for a vaccine for years and years and years. But the reality of it is no, that this vaccine was put together for this pandemic, right? And just rolled out in a year. Not even that. And then so number one, we have no long-term studies. None. We are the long-term study. There's no long-term study on regular people. There's no long-term study on pregnant women. There's no long-term study on children. Nothing. Okay, so that's your first problem, right? Number one. Number two, they aren't held liable. Period. It doesn't matter. You fucking get your kid a vaccine, they die. That's too fucking bad. You think the government cares? Absolutely fucking not. It was for the greater good. It's for the greater good. Because apparently the original story was, we got to get everybody vaccinated, right? We got to get them vaccinated so that we can create this herd immunity, right? And protect that's what it always is, this herd immunity. We're going to protect our immunocompromised and this and that and this. Well, then studies come out that, oh no, the vaccine people are more susceptible to transmit the virus. All right. So, we told you didn't have to wear a mask anymore. You get this vaccine, you can go back to living life like normal. We promise you no more masks. You can gather everything, so on and so forth. Oh shit. But they're transmitting it more now. So you got to still wear a mask. Now, fuck you. You are absolutely not. What? So then you have your 2 doses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point it's just a fucking joke, because the way viruses work, and they're mutating and so on and so. That's what a virus does, right? So you have one line of defense against it. But viruses, they're smart, so they figure out other ways to get it and attach onto cells, and so then they mutate. So what we've done is we've created this immune response, supposedly we've created this immune response, and now these viruses are mutating, and now, oh no, we're shocked that there's a new variant, new variant. It will not stop. I mean, that is the science. People keep saying follow the science. That is the science. It won't stop. So at what point do you say that you're not going to get a booster anymore? Because that will never stop as long as the pharmaceutical companies can make money off that, which they will, I promise, drag that out as long as they fucking can. There will always be a new booster. So we've seen all this wishy-washy all over the place. I personally, I don't care what people decide to do. If you're vaccinated, great. If you're not, whatever. Either way, I don't give a shit. And so this is funny. I've been pegged as an anti-vaxxer for years and years and years. I got my vaccine. I got the shot. And I spent, now this is my own personal story, so I will preface that. I'm not saying this one way or the other.
Yeah.
I spent all last year going all over the Southeast. Most of the time, if a place required me to wear a mask out of respect for that business, I wore a mask. Otherwise, I did not wear a mask. I was around all sorts of people that I was not normally around for literally most of 2020. Never once got sick. Never once. I went through most of this year, never got sick. I ended up getting the vaccine because Dan was going to be mandated to get it. And I ended up getting it, got it. I was fine. No issues. Dan he had no choice. He got it. No issues. 3 weeks later, we ended up with COVID. So I was like, what kind of fucking joke is this? And it was, I will say it was mild. I mean, I also, I run an apothecary. So, we had herbs and everything. So we were boosting our immune system, but we all got COVID. So, everybody gets sick. It's whatever. And I'm thinking, what a fucking joke. I spent a year and a half totally fine, and then I get the shot and I'm done. Well, as soon as they started rolling out that they were going to require people to show these cards, I fucking burnt mine. I said, I made the choice to get the vaccine, but I will absolutely not live in a world where you are going to be forced to show that you have had a medical procedure done that you don't even fucking believe in.
Right.
The government doesn't even believe. That's the biggest fucking joke ever. The government doesn't even believe in it. It's our money.
It's so funny because everything they do literally says that they have like no confidence in the vaccines. Well, get vaccinated but still wear a mask. Right. You can't spread it. Well, you can't spread it. And so what you said there kind of gets to the nuance of it, that it does seem like the vaccines help in just making it less bad. But like literally that's it. And no one knows by how much, no one knows by how long.
Right.
It's just like, hey, this may help.
May not, but we're going to force you to get it.
Right. And see, that's the problem. So if there was a case that it was very effective and nobody got it afterwards, I'm not saying I'd be okay with a mandate, but it's like, okay, at least you got solid ground. But like, look, people have natural immunity. My fiance and I got it back in March. Wasn't a big deal at all. I lost my taste and smell for a week and still worked out, did everything I normally do. My fiance just lost her smell for a month. That was literally it. You would have a case if it was 100% efficacious and you were going to eradicate COVID off the face of the earth. But it just seems like this goalpost keeps moving.
Yes.
And, hey, take your first shot. Now get your second one, get your third one. And then they'll tell you, oh, well, you don't know how long natural immunity lasts. Your fucking vaccine lasts like a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
Right. And I got an antibody test 3 months after I had COVID, and my levels were still higher than people who were vaccinated. Yeah. So what's the deal here? If they came out and said, I had Spike Cohen actually on my show for my 4th episode, and him and I were talking about vaccination, and he said that the reason why places like Israel and some other countries that have high vaccination rates. The reason why they have such high vaccination rates is because they were honest. They said, hey, this may help, this may not. Here it is. It's free. Take it or don't.
Right.
If you just came out and said that, nobody would make a big deal. And a lot of people would probably go get it. But then when you start telling people, hey, you have to get this, then now you're going to piss people off. And especially when there's so much conflicting messaging about it, because nobody trusts anybody anymore. You can't trust the mainstream news. You can't trust Dr. Fauci. You can't trust anybody telling you anything about COVID-19 anymore.
Right.
You have to sit down, you have to read stuff. And then even then, it's like, that's still choppy because
you don't know.
I read an article. It said first infant dies of COVID-19, right? You read to the bottom of the article, you know what it says? No final cause of death has been issued. Like, you're purposely trying to get people wound up. But this is, once again, this is why nobody trusts the media. And this is why people are waking up to the bullshit that's going on around them, because a lot of people got vaccinated and now they're hearing, well, if I have to get boosted for the rest of my life, I'm not going to fucking do it.
What's the point?
Yes.
Exactly.
So I've kept you for about an hour now. I try to end on an optimistic note. It seems like you're as optimistic as I am about libertarianism and the Libertarian Party in general going forward. Do you see people waking up to all the bullshit that's going on, and do you think people are ready for a change?
I do, and I think that the things that are happening is what's causing that. It's the things like the mandates, where people, like, you're very right. There's another part of your brain that is triggered when somebody says you have to do this. When back in March last year, when they were saying, we're shut down and, you need to stay in your house and everything, I literally went to the store every single day. I hate going to the store. Like, I loathe Walmart. But my ass found myself at Walmart every fucking day. Why? Because they told me I couldn't go. It was like, no, I am going. I was also working with a nonprofit to get groceries for our community. But I was like, no, you're not going to tell me not, that I can't. No, fuck you. I will go to every fucking store and I'll walk in there without my mask. It's very interesting. There's another part of your brain, right, that fires when somebody is like, you can't do this. And that is a very valid point. It was something I had spoke with somebody about not long ago. If they would have just said, like Spike had mentioned, hey, here we have this. If you want to get it, take it. If you don't, then you don't. So many more people would have willingly gotten that vaccine. And just because it was available, right? Instead of this whole, you absolutely have to do it. Well, that the fuck I do, and the fuck anybody else really does. So you see things like that are people are waking up. You see all over the world, people are starting to see, people rising up. For various different things, and seeing how I think people are starting to understand that, especially COVID really, I think, has shined a lot of light on that the government literally has no fucking idea what they're doing. So these people that, are supposed to be these experts and these people that are supposed to be speaking for us have no fucking idea what they're doing. And they're backed by all of this big money from pharmaceutical companies and things like that are telling them what they want. And they're just, driving things through. It's not in the interest of the people, and people are starting to see that. And the more that happens, and the more that people like Joe Biden are shoving this down people's throat, I think the more we're going to see this turn where people are going to be like, no, and they're going to be looking to other places to find the answers. And the Libertarian Party is poised to be that answer, just because of, our principles and how we are and who we are. So I think we're going to see it is going to get worse. It is going to get a lot worse before it's going to get better. And I mean that in the fashion of just the nation. the economy is just going to get substantially worse. This whole vaccine mandate is going to get worse. Things like that, and there's finally going to be a breaking point. And when that breaking point happens, we're going to see this massive shift. So I guess it's a good point to. Is that positive? Am I being positive about it? I'm telling us that we're all going to hell here in the next.
No. You know what? It's I think that if we do play our cards right for 2022, 2024, then the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian message in general will pull a lot of people in, and people will finally realize that, it shouldn't have had to take, a 61% workforce participation rate and 30, probably by then almost $40 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
To finally realize that, just freedom is the answer. But I think that a lot of people are opening their eyes to that. And like I said, 2022, 2024, I'm very, very optimistic that a lot more people are going to be pulled into this direction. And, I think a collapse is inevitable. But if we open people's eyes to what the fix is and how to maintain things, hard money and respect for property rights, then I think that we'll do very, very well after the collapse very, very quickly, because we have the people, we have the technology, and, this country's built for, what it once was. And we can totally get back there if we just kind of listen to what our founders said and once again get back to just that principle of freedom and liberty. So, Angela, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you? Where can people support you?
Yeah, so you can find me at angelapence.com. It's Pence. It's such a weird name, like Mike Pence, but no relation. You won't find them flies around me. That is my website. And all of my information is on there. You can also find me on Twitter, which is where you found me, Angela for 14. And then I'm on Facebook, but I've actually graduated more to Twitter. I've grown up. I've become an adult. I've graduated more to Twitter than I am on Facebook now. So those are the best places to find me. I definitely, monetary donations is fantastic. I have, a filing fee that has to be paid in March. And so all of the money I am collecting is going towards that filing fee and, just getting ready to hit the ground running. Because I think right now, Marjorie's just sitting back and waiting, because I have to petition, right, to go on the ballot. So I have to get minimum 4,000 signatures to go on the ballot. Now I'm going to pad it with 8,000 just because they like to throw signatures out. But I think she doesn't think I'm going to make it on the ballot, which is an unfortunate thing. But I think once I do, then it's we have to be ready to go. And so that's what we're using all the funds for, and getting signed shirts, anything like that, ready to go, to give out and really start hitting the ground running once I get on the ballot. So June through November.
Nice. Well, it seems like a lot of people who are running as libertarians are kind of getting the jump on things now. Even earlier in the year, they were on kind of hitting the ground running. So
yeah,
I know everybody says like this is the most important election, or this one's going to be different, but I think libertarians are going to be taken a lot more seriously this time around. And I think there's plenty of solid libertarians like yourself that are ready to go in and do real work for the people that sorely needs done.
Yes.
So once again, thank you for coming on. I'll end it here. Everybody, this is In Liberty and Health, episode 28. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a good one.